Amy.
Hey, Jack.
I'm gay.
Oh my god, that is so funny. I'm also gay. I was going to tell you.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
And you're listening to Dating Straight. Hey, Amy.
Hey, Jack.
Hey,
Jade.
Hello.
How's it going?
Not bad. It's I'm just kind of I'm a little out of it. Like I woke up this morning and I woke up, I turned over and there was a spider on the wall. And so that's how I started my morning, and I don't think I've recovered.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
Terrible
literally
way.
just happened to me, and then it disappeared. And I thought that maybe I was dreaming it, but I'm confident that it was real.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of killing spiders? I know it's not very vegan, but I totally do it.
Oh, death all day.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
If
You
it's
have
in the
to.
households, if it's outside, obviously let it live.
I've gotten to the point where I can now kill a bug with just a tissue and not my shoe. So where you hear the little crunchy bits.
Ew. I'm still not there.
I mean, I grew up in Australia, so I'm not afraid.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so make sure to, before we begin, rate, review, subscribe. Check out our Patreon if you're interested. We do extra episodes and things like that. So today we have on Jade Fox, lesbian YouTuber extraordinaire.
Wow.
And recently Jade made a video called We Need to Talk, the race issues between lesbian creators. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. And a lot of you guys have actually been asking to have Jade on Dating Straight. So we're super excited that Jade's here today. So Jade, can you just briefly, or not briefly, explain sort of what you said in the video for some people who might not have seen it?
Yeah, so I think people think that video was way more, like, people are like, you're so brave, and I'm like, okay. But so I did a magazine. It was like a Pride, themed article they were doing, and then they asked me that question. They were like, so how do you feel about, this, very clear kind of divide on YouTube? Mm-hmm. And this is like the umpteenth time that I've been asked this question. And so my answer is kind of like I'm on autopilot at this point when I kind of talk about it. And then when I got off the call, I was like, I don't think I've ever had this conversation, or I've seen the conversation online ever. And then I've never had the conversation without it being a part of some type of like article or some type of feature on YouTubers or whatever. And then, with me and a lot of the other like Black and brown creators, like we've definitely noticed it. We'll definitely like, we'll discuss it a bit, but it's not something that's new to us. And so I was like, well, this conversation, it's old as hell, but can I curse?
Oh, please.
Yeah, please.
Okay, great.
Also,
this conversation is just like, I've been having it for a long time. A lot of my Black and brown, counterparts on YouTube have had it for a long time, and I just wanted to bring it to YouTube. And so that's what I did. I wasn't anticipating the response that it got. I feel like part of my process as far as addressing it and trying to do something about it was making the video. And so I wasn't really prepared for all of and even though it was like overwhelmingly positive, like just getting a lot of notifications on my phone just stresses me out in general. So it was just a lot, after it was done. But I really just wanted to have the conversation on a more public platform. Yeah. And to honestly hear about other people are asked these questions, and if they are, like, what do y'all say? Because these are conversations that I feel like only happen in private. And so I just wanted to bring it to YouTube and just see what the people had to say.
I thought it was really cool when you were like, you've all noticed, because I had noticed, and I guess like I feel like so stupid and uneducated sometimes because we don't learn about how to handle racism in school. At least I didn't. And I mean, I also went to school in Australia, but there's racism in Australia as well, obviously. Like, we don't learn about racism in general, let alone how to handle it. So yeah, I've had those conversations in private, but it's like confusing. It's like, why is there such a clear divide? Like, I look around at all my friends and they're majority white, and I don't know why.
I do think that it's I wish I read more so I had more words to choose from. But I do think it's more of like when you're in middle school or in high school, you kind of gravitate towards the kids who look like you. You kind of gravitate towards the kids you know, have a similar lifestyle as you. So I do think that is just, the divide is just a reflection of what happens in real life. You know, you have people say, like, you are what you eat, you are what you watch. So I do think that it's a bit of that, but also I just think that it started that way, and then at some point there could have been a correction made, but then it just never happened, and so the divide just got more and more and more and more evident. So I don't think, that's why, like, in that video, I don't think it's any particular person. I don't think it's any particular one specific thing that, like, contributes to the issue. I think that it's a bunch of different things that go beyond YouTube. So
Right. Yeah, I think like it's interesting for, like, white people to look at themselves. Like, I feel like I've been, you know, we've all been doing this the past couple months about, like, okay, how am I part of the problem, and, like, really processing that, because it's so easy to be like, I'm not racist, like, you know, of course not. But, like, I think an important point to sort of, like, the harder thing to recognize, but the most important thing to recognize is, like, what how are we part of the problem, what unconscious biases do we have, how are we accidentally, like, appropriating and things like that. And then so yeah, I think your video is really good at, like, getting people to, like, look at themselves in the mirror really hard.
Yeah.
What
has the response been like for you?
It's it's been overwhelming, because, like, it's even though it's positive, let me just start by saying I'm a bad texter, and this is how this began, because I send my message out and I don't want to respond right away, so I'll put my phone down and then I'll respond hours later when I'm mentally prepared for it. So with the YouTube channel, I do the same thing. I literally put up the video, then I, like, shut my laptop and I run away, because I don't want to be sitting there refreshing every 4 seconds. And so with that video in particular, the response has been really dope. It's been really refreshing is probably the best word I can use, because people who because I didn't call out any particular person. I just kind of named names that I knew were popular, more so as a reference, not necessarily, like, to name this specific person as in part of the issue. But the response has been really great. It's been really refreshing, and it's been nice to see YouTubers who fall in the, you know, the white lesbian YouTuber category acknowledge the ways that they have been contributing to the issue, and just the ways that they're trying to correct it. And so it's been dope. It's been really nice. And it's one thing that I wasn't prepared for was the tutorials that people wanted, as far as, like, hey, I know that I contribute to this problem, can you please give me, like, 101 on how to fix it? And then I'm like, girl, did you watch the video at all? But because I literally do in the video. And so it's been part of the overwhelmingly positive response has been me having to, like, kind of draw the boundary and be like, okay, I made the video, we've connected, you know what you need to do, and as far as I'm concerned, like, now is the time for you to go off and do your homework, you know?
Right.
And so that's a part of the the response that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. I didn't think that I would have to do, but I think that's part of this whole movement that's happening right now. I think everybody's kind of turning to their black and brown friends, and they're like, yo, what do I need to do? Please help me. And now we are kind of in this position where, well, honestly, everybody's in a position where they're kind of choosing what role you want to occupy within all this. Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be an educator? Do you want to do you want to help spread information? I think everyone's trying to figure out what their role is going to be. And I think people are kind of turning to black and brown people thinking that we're educators, when it's like, some of us are and do a great job, and that video was me kind of stepping into that role, but I've realized that it's a bit draining for me to take that on 100% of the time. And so yeah, it's been interesting kind of navigating like mental health with all of this, just because even if you are on even if you have all the facts, all the stats and infographics stuff, like you can know everything, and it's still going to exhaust you. It's still going to be draining, because regardless of, because sometimes honestly it's like the more you know, the more drained you are, just because you're so like painfully aware of how disenfranchised like your community is. And if you are intersectional and you belong to various marginalized communities, it's like I was talking to my friend the other day, I was like, it feels like I'm doing dishes and people keep adding dishes, and I just want to be done with my dishes. That's like the best like way I can describe it. But I'm just happy. I'm happy that people were receptive and that they listened, and that it helped people become more of an active ally.
Yeah. I watched your video on like the No Name versus J. Cole thing, and like sort of what you were saying, how like that I thought was interesting was like, being black doesn't make you an expert on like black like culture or strife, or and it must be exhausting to like accidentally fall into that like voice of a leader.
Yeah, and it's just like all you can do is talk about your experiences. And for me, with police brutality in particular, I'm actually a unique story, I guess, because even though my family I don't have any cops or anything in my family, my dad is really involved with law enforcement, FBI, because he's an engineer for, well, I don't know how much I can say. I'll just say that he is an audio visual engineer, and he helps create surveillance equipment, pretty much. So body cams, he knows how to make them, and he makes them for people. And so most of my history, my experience with cops have been positive, just because my dad has been kind of adjacent to, that community. However, one thing that I've had to take my own individual story about it out of it, because that does not represent experiences as a whole, and it also doesn't represent like my personal like positive story when it comes to like law enforcement. Doesn't change the fact that these systems are put in place at my detriment. If anything, the reason why I have a positive experience with cops is just because of my specific relationship with them. Right. And I knew that if I was to take that out of the equation, things would be a lot different. And so like it's I actually like I get exposed quite often, because like people will ask me questions. Usually non-black people will ask me questions, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not a good black, I guess, because I don't know the stats for that. I don't know your answer. I don't know the answers for that. But I think that
But how could you know everything?
Exactly. Like impossible. I can't. There's so much to know, and the thing about racism is that like there are so many levels that you can understand racism on. Like systemic oppression is just one bit of it. But white supremacy and racism is honestly like in the thread of the foundation of this nation. So like to think that you could learn every single piece of it is damn near impossible, especially when it's so insidious too. So
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I think that's one of the things that's hard for, well, I hate being like, it's hard for white people, but like, it's intimidating to like try and learn everything, and it's like you're saying, impossible to learn everything, but we can just do our best. And like, if people say that's not cool, you have to be like open to change, and I think that's the biggest thing we can hope for, is just like listening and changing behavior if we do something wrong.
Yeah, that's why I was like, when I made that video and people were asking me like, well, what do? I would just tell them like, you have to look at how you specifically have contributed to whatever it is that you're trying to correct, because that's to me, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit, and that's also the entryway into figuring out how you contribute to larger systems. Like YouTube is just a platform, that's just a website, but I'm sure that there's ways that even because the thing about it is like white supremacy, racism, like that also comes with a mentality. It's like those people who say, well, like there are Black people who say, if you pulled up your pants, and if you didn't, resist, and all this other stuff. It's like all of that, we've been conditioned to think that, by white people. So it's not even necessarily something that can only be carried, I guess, by white people. And I think Black people also should see how, their mentality, and I know that most of it comes from just being in survival mode. It's like when my parents were giving me, that talk, which is the, when you get pulled over, don't talk back, don't da 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 da. All of that, even though I should be, allowed to react as any and have the same safety as any human, like the protocol is a bit different for me, and I understand why I was taught those things. But I think now we're trying to dismantle all of that shit, and we're just like, you know what, we need to make this an even playing field for everybody. So I've definitely had to look at the ways that I've contributed to it, because there was just the other day, I was around a family friend and they said something problematic and I didn't say anything, and I have ever since I've been eating myself up for it. And so it's everyone has to look inward and see, how can I, one, come into my own as an ally, or an educator, whatever the role is, and then number two, just how do I stay steadfast in that.
I wanted to get into how you brought up that white creators around like Pride time, or honestly any time, are getting paid more than Black creators, and I honestly didn't know that. And it, like, why it just doesn't even make sense. I don't understand.
I wish I could tell you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember when I won't say their name, but when I first moved to LA, maybe like my first year or two into being in LA, I was talking to a white lesbian creator, and because we're both working with the same sponsor, and I don't even think we were talking about fees. I think we were just talking about like, what video we were going to do for them. And they were like, yeah, man, they're only paying me $10K. And at the time, I think I was getting like $500 or something crazy like that. And the thing is that our audiences like weren't ridiculously, there wasn't there was definitely like a difference. Like she had a bigger audience than I did. However, not that big. You know what I mean?
Times, 20
times. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Comparatively.
And so I was like, y'all are out here getting paid like this. And then I talked to another one and they were like, oh no, yeah, around the same. They were getting paid the same. And I was like, this is really interesting to me. And I think that it's because people think that Black and brown audiences are niche still. I don't know why people feel that way when Black people, we contribute. Let me not do fake numbers. I don't know what these numbers are. I just know that we contribute a lot to hair care, wellness. Like there are all these different industries that like food, like there are all these different industries that Black people, beauty, like we make up a big portion of the consumer base. So I don't understand why that there's this idea that like Black or brown audiences are worth less I don't agree with that, and I also think that it's I don't
It
know.
just sounds like an excuse to make for why your fee would be much less than someone else's.
Exactly. And so, yeah, man, I've been actually wanting people to be I know it's weird. I know no one likes to talk about money, and it's a thing, and I completely get it. But it's just like I've just been more transparent with people and be like, and I'll hit someone up. I'm like, yo, how much are you getting paid for this? Because I got, I get played with on a daily basis when it comes to, people not honoring my rates, when I know that there are white creators that, I mean, not all of them, but there are white creators that do half the work that I do and get paid so much more just off of their audience, or the gender and the race of their audience. And so, yeah, it's been a cycle for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like one, also, as you've been saying, small problem on like the larger YouTube scale too. And even like you were saying, YouTube is just like a website. But I feel like obviously we've been seeing recently a lot of like the most famous YouTubers getting called out for racist actions, racist words, or like racist humor that they try and play off as like, oh, that was funny at the time. But and so I feel like that conversation's happening not only just within like the gay YouTube, it's the gay side of YouTube, but also on a larger scale. And there's a lot of people saying like they should not be making content anymore. They should be canceled. And then a lot of people are saying that cancel culture is toxic and like they should be forgiven. Like, what do you make out of this whole large conversation happening on YouTube?
I think that with YouTube, and YouTube specifically, because it is a platform that, like, I'm sure the Shane Dawsons of the world, like my AdSense compared to the amount of sponsorships, like most of my income comes from my sponsorships and not so much my AdSense. But however, if you have a decent enough platform, a big enough platform, big enough engagement, your AdSense, I'm sure accounts for a lot of your income. And so with YouTube, and YouTube specifically, I feel like they should just pull the plug on a lot of these creators, just because it's like, what, I don't know what they gain out of by allowing them to stay on the platform other than money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think YouTube is like waiting for the redemption arc. Like, I don't think like YouTube is like, waiting for, Azealia Banks to come out and be like, I'm great again. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I know that I feel like cancel culture is honestly just and I think at its core, cancel culture has somewhat of the right idea. I think that it's more of an overcorrection though, and I think that social media has just kind of corrupted it a bit because there's just a lot of noise. But when it comes to like Shane Dawson, it's just like, I don't know how many times this guy has a history.
That's
the
so
thing.
repeated.
It's not like a one-off or even a two-off or just like even a statement. Like sometimes like I'll slip up and I'll say something that sounds like it's not what I meant. But Shane Dawson has like, it's a mentality. It's literally what he believes. It's a way of thinking, and it's a history. And it's just like, how many times are you going to allow it before you basically are saying that it's fine? Because that's kind of the it's just like, it's whatever. And honestly, I feel like right now is the perfect time to be a bit more staunch in how you treat creators, because it's like, is right now really the time where you want to do blackface? Is right now like really the best time, to be putting up with this type of behavior? And so it's just like, I know a lot of these brands are coming out with black squares. A lot of these brands are coming out and saying that we stand with the LGBT community, we stand with the black community, and they're being a lot more explicit about where they stand with things. And YouTube has always kind of been in this kind of, they've just never done that before. And so I feel like if they haven't done it yet, if they haven't done it, especially with Shane Dawson, and this is I haven't researched it, so I don't know if they've even said anything. But
Well, they demonetized all 3 of his channels, but I don't think that is forever. Like, even when Logan Paul did the whole, like, in the woods dead person thing, he was only demonetized for like a month. And with Shane, with this repeated behavior, and it is a pattern, and he's had to make so many apology videos because there's like a vast, like, he's done it all. It's awful. So I think cancel culture, like, when you've crossed that threshold so many times, like, he needs to be done.
Yeah.
Now.
But the thing about cancel.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just gonna say, I think I totally agree. I think, like, we should just pull the plug, because there's got to be so many people on YouTube who are awesome and, like, don't have horrible racist, like, humor and aren't racist. And, like, YouTube also, via their algorithm, can pretty much make anyone famous who they want. So, like, to me, it doesn't make sense why they would hold on to these creators just because they're big, because they could just make other people big who they've, like, vetted. And also, I mean, on a personal note, I mean, it depends what you think, but I just thought it was, like, not cool how, like, Ryland, Shane's boyfriend, like, started tweeting a bunch of shit about the whole Tati scandal, but, like, said nothing about Black Lives Matter. Like, it's obvious what's important to them is money and reputation, and not, you know, changing themselves for the good of others. That's what seems obvious to me.
Yeah. And the thing about cancel culture, though, is that, like, if you're a Shane Dawson fan, you're probably still going to be tuned in. Anyone, like, I feel like cancel culture, like, I'm trying to think of, like, who got canceled. And who got, like, who is the example, you know, or the case study for cancel culture? And I literally can't think of anyone, because the thing about it is, like, I canceled Shane Dawson. However, I was never tuned in the first place. So it's like, he's not losing any money from me. And so that's why it's like cancel culture. I do think it works sometimes. However, I feel like if you're following, it's like the Kardashians. The Kardashians will never be canceled. That's just never going to happen. Because they're too global. They're too big. And even though Shane Dawson isn't on, you know, Kardashian status, he's built a cult following. And so, you know, I don't think that he's going. I don't think he's done, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, like, everyone I think about who's canceled is not at all canceled and is actually thriving. Like, Jeffree Star, if you look at his launches from his makeup, like, he's making at least, like, tens of millions of dollars per drop. If you look at, like, Tekashi 6ix9ine, who, like, repeatedly says the N-word and has been, like, accused of, like, sexual assault, he is, like, putting out songs, like, with Nicki Minaj and is, like, going number 1 on Billboard, or, you know, number 2 on Billboard. Like, I agree. I think much as we try, cancel culture doesn't really work. No. So then,
because, like, Trisha has been canceled so many times and she's still here. So
is that the girl who came out, or I'm sorry, the person that came out is trans?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Oh,
That's crazy.
No, Trisha's, like, literally done it all. Like, offended every single group of people.
I just think, and you know what's so, you know, I like to, you know, I'm joking when I say it, but low key it's kind of true. I like to say that, like, white people have 9 lives, because it's like, it kind of doesn't matter how many times you mess up necessarily, even if it is offensive or racist or whatever. Because Trisha Paytas, right?
Yeah.
Trisha Paytas is like, you know, this, or actually no, a better example would be Tana Mojo.
Tana Mojo. I literally just, like, felt that you were going to say that. I knew.
It's just so funny to me, because it's like, I know that, you know, she's seen us as, like, edgy and cool, and she's, like, down to earth, and she'll, like, play video games with you and, like, you know, whatever. And it's like, you know, she curses and she's she's different, you know, whereas if I was to do the same thing, you know, I would be all the adjectives, you know what I mean? Loud, angry, ghetto, whatever. And so it's that double standard, man. And I do think that it definitely comes into play and to the benefit of a lot of people, especially when they're pending getting canceled.
Yeah. You know, that made me think about also, I mean, I guess this isn't necessarily about cancel culture, but all of the most problematic people on YouTube are all friends. And I feel like, what does that say about you and your friends? Like,
Yeah.
like, I somehow doubt that all of you are, I mean, what do I know? Like, maybe you are talking a lot about these issues and trying to grow, but like, it seems to me like I say like you all, like they're listening, but like they all are just like apologizing, and then they're all like, it's
damage
okay.
Control is what it feels like.
Yeah. And then, so that's sort of like the problem, obviously, within the YouTube community, but we're kind of trying, with this episode, trying to like scope out every, you know, level of conversation. So now we want to talk about just the problem within the gay community as a whole, not necessarily online. And I think we know as gay people, like for Pride, especially for the past couple of years, I think it's been very obvious and loud about how gay liberation is intertwined with like Black trans women. But I also feel like we only recognize that like during Pride Month, and then sort of neglect like certain members of our community who are different, who aren't like white cis gay men. So yeah, I mean, obviously racism is a big problem in the gay community. And we just wanted to look at like gay bars and think about them as spaces, and like, why do you think that they are pretty much always filled with only gay white men?
I feel like at least in WeHo, we definitely see it's just like white gay men everywhere.
Yeah.
Central. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, I think it's mainly because it's only advertised to white gay men.
Really?
I don't think that, it's very, very, very rare that I've seen any queer party, whatever, flyers and stuff, that were inclusive of all, or not inclusive, but just diverse, as far as gender and race goes. But with WeHo in particular, I don't know. It's almost like it's a cultural thing. I just know that I don't have a great time when I go, because there's one particular time I remember, me and my best friend Arrows, we went to Mickey's. I think that's what it was. Yeah, we went to Mickey's, and we literally just walked inside, and we're like walking to the bar, and there was these two white guys, and I had a hat on. He took my hat off, and he was like playing with it, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm butch." And then
what?
the other guy, he was like, "You guys are so," like literally talking to us as if we were matching lamps. He was like, "Oh, you guys are so cute. Like when you guys walked in, like I love like all of this. You guys are just so cute." And it's just like, why are you talking to me like this?
Condescending. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't like this. And then it was just a reminder that like the common thread is that patriarchy and patriarchy is always going to win, right? And even in the gay scene, so gay white men, y'all are kind of at the top, you know, of the totem pole here, and so everything is almost like geared to white gay men. And it's almost like it's been interesting just seeing the amount of like lesbian spaces that have kind of came and went, you know, in WeHo, because it's so interesting to me, because it's just like, I feel that that there isn't enough corporate, and I have no idea how these parties start. I have no idea any of this, none of it. But I just feel like there's just a lack of support as far as these actual events go, the people who produce the events, the advertising. It's like it's night and day compared to, you know, the events where there's mainly like white gay men. And even when we create our own spaces, because my friend Amber's Closet, I don't know if y'all know her, but Amber's Closet, she created a party, or I think she like co-created a party, and it was really fun, and it was popping, and it was like every single weekend, and it was like we finally have this space where we can go and be around other people who look like us and, you know, love the way that we do. And it just always felt so small in comparison to everything else. It felt like the support was so small compared to all the other events. And I think that we are just kind of in this space where Black and brown lesbians, anyway, or even gay men too, honestly, we're kind of in this space where we may feel a bit jaded, and we're just trying to create our own. But once you start to kind of create your own space, you realize like that takes money, that takes support, that takes time, that takes all of these resources that, you know, we are often, you know, not just awarded. So
Right.
Yeah. And WeHo is probably geared towards, I almost said straight, gay white men, because they make the most money. And that's just like a whole other issue that,
Yeah, that's true.
you know.
And I think also there are like sort of like, not necessarily in WeHo, but there are like underground parties, like warehouse parties and stuff in LA that I've been to. Like one's called Ospenhof, and I don't know, I never really enjoyed it because it was very much like tons of muscular white gays like with their shirts off, just like, you know, sort of like a circuit party. But apparently it like used to be very queer, and like trans people used to get in for free, and it was like a whole very queer thing, but it was just sort of like appropriated by the same type of people who you're trying to run away from, because they, you know, white gays also recognize that like our spaces are kind of boring and same, and we want like edgy spaces too, so we just end up like taking over the spaces of other people. So I think that's part of the problem as well.
yeah, it's I don't know if you guys have watched Pose at all.
I
But
have, yeah.
I like binged the second season, and I don't know why I didn't think of it at the time, but I was watching an episode and they were basically saying that, you know, if you want to go, because there was an episode where they were vetting lip syncing, like having a lip syncing category. And as we all know, within the drag world, lip syncing is king. And so during the episode, they were just like, no, we don't want to do lip syncing. If you want to do lip syncing, you can go over to, you know, the white gay clubs, because that's where they do that over there. And we don't do that here in the ballroom. Eventually they did introduce it in, but I didn't even know that there was, like, I thought that the ballroom scene, I didn't realize that it was happening alongside with other white queer spaces. I thought that I thought that it predated those spaces. And so it made me look at the ballroom scene even differently, because it's like the fact that this is even here is an act of rebellion, you know, because it is literally created to not participate in what is so very almost has this like exclusive kind of air about it. And I will say this though, in LA, it is possible to find Black and brown queer parties. You just have to know people. And it sucks that you can't just Google. It sucks that you can't just go on Facebook. You know, who created a Facebook event this weekend? Like you can't just Google it, and that you have to like know someone who knows someone who knows this
or
person,
roll out
knows this
to
promoter.
WeHo and just like go down the street and pick one.
Pretty much. Like there's been so many times where we've started out at a Mickey's or at the Abbey or something like that, and then we've seen a brown person, then we're like, ooh, let's make friends with them, and then we'll make friends with them, and then they'll take us to like the other side of town and to this whole other party. And I remember there's this, I'm talking a lot, but I specifically remember this party and how enchanting it was. But it was this big ass house. It was like all the way out in the middle of nowhere. and we walk inside, and it was like an episode of Insecure. It was like an episode of like, it was like House Party the movie or something like that. Like there was just black and brown people everywhere, gay men, lesbian women, trans people, and it was just a feeling that unfortunately like a lot of queer people don't get to experience in WeHo. It's just feeling seen and being amongst, you know, people that have similar lifestyles as you. So yeah, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but me and my friends, we've had conversations about WeHo.
Yeah, I think it's relevant. I think it's like we as a community have to like make these spaces more welcoming to lesbians, and black and brown people and trans people, and I don't, just as a whole, like I think it's funny that it's like, of course we all say we're part of like the LGBTQ community, but like my world is very much like G, like it's very much the G community, you know, like so I think we have to do a better job of just including the whole acronym.
That's so funny. Because when I think about me exploring my sexuality, they were mostly in like gay male spaces, or, you know, maybe I'll go to like a random speed dating thing if I was like real, you know, scratching the surface. But that's funny. It's funny. I've never heard it said in that way, where it's just like gay men, you kind of have the opportunity to explore your particular community. Whereas if you're kind of if you're bisexual or trans or lesbian, you are automatically going to step into those gay male spaces because that is predominantly what is there. It's interesting.
Yeah. The fact that there's not one single lesbian bar in Los Angeles where there's like a huge lesbian community is just very confusing.
It makes no sense because out of all the people that are committed to anything, it's us. If you want someone to be in there,
so true.
Every single weekend we will be there. And the thing is that like single lesbians will go, married lesbians will go, divorced lesbians will go. Like,
yeah,
I've never understood that either. So yeah,
I mean they have like the lesbian night at the chapel, and it's packed every Wednesday. So I don't know why someone's not doing something about that.
Yep.
I don't know, man.
Okay, so the Black Lives Matter movement is especially the biggest it's ever been, right? Is that what I saw on Twitter? I get all my information from Twitter.
I think it's like the biggest movement ever.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that it's happening during a pandemic as well. Do you think that the pandemic made it bigger or like smaller than what it would have been otherwise? Yeah.
I don't know. It could have. I can definitely speak for myself when I say that during quarantine, I kind of found my purpose. Because it made me focus on my work. It made me focus on basically just the things that were important. So maybe, you know, kind of the self-isolation, you know, over a few months, it almost prepared you to fight. Because I started a business before you know the protests really started to take over. I started a business, basically a brand consulting business, to help brands be more inclusive, help brands you know, learn how to speak and use messaging that is not offensive towards Black and brown people, towards queer people. And I did that before everything started. And I will say that once I started to see the magnitude of the Black Lives Matter movement and just this social movement in general, it definitely fueled the flame in me. And so I don't know. It could have just been everyone was just sick of the bullshit. It's just like we've been inside. We've been reading these articles. We have no choice but to kind of look at all this stuff in the face. And it's just like, I'm going to go out and do something about this, even if it's something that may not be great for me. Even though we've seen that COVID has not been spiked because of the protests. But I honestly don't know. I can speak for myself and say that yes. But I can't speak for everyone else.
I think so too. Same. It's like it forces you to look, I mean, just being like on isolation for however many months it's been, is like, it just forces you to like look at yourself, look inward, and then also see things much clearer for what they are.
Yeah.
So at least.
Yeah. And I think all of us sort of, not all of us, that's a generalization, but a lot of us are spending a lot more time on like social media. And I think social media has been a huge like catalyst for this movement, because first of all, you're seeing like horrific things that we would have never seen in the past like go viral, you know, like if we didn't have video. Or just things that they aren't willing to put on the news. You can kind of seek that out. So I feel like with all this time and all of this time spent on social media, it's like been very impactful, at least to me.
I also think that the juxtaposition of like me sitting at home on the couch in my jammies with a nice cozy blanket, and I have like hot coffee next to me, and I'm like so very comfortable and privileged to even be able to be in this position, and then literally going on Twitter and seeing stories about how there's kids in cages, going on Twitter and seeing stories about trans people being murdered, trans women specifically being murdered, or like Black people being lynched. I think it makes you like look around and you're like, okay, I'm in a position, I've recognized my privilege in this, because this isn't, I'm not, I myself am not in the cage. But I think that for me, like seeing how privileged I was, it made me want to do more, because I knew that at the end of the day, I could come home. I knew at the end of the day, I had a bed. And so it's just like, I'm going to go protest. I'm going to go donate this money. I'm going to go whatever, because I know that at the end of the day, I know what my life looks like. I know what my circumstances look like. And so it's not going to hurt me to either use the privilege that I have, or kind of step into a place where that just isn't as comfortable, because I know that it's for, the greater good. And I felt a bit of that guilt. Like, I think, people talk about white guilt. I felt a bit of that, like, guilt that comes along with having privilege, and then seeing people who don't, and seeing people who have fallen victim to the hem of police brutality or just racism in general, whatever. So I definitely, all of it made me check my privilege, and it was just like, okay, Jade, you're doing fine, so go leave your house and like go do something.
We know that you just moved also, and we also, we are a dating podcast. We know you have a girlfriend. So I don't know how willing you are to speak about that, but we would love to hear the story of either your personal relationship with her, or I don't know, just like dating as a Black woman would be interesting as well.
So shout outs to Tinder. We met on Tinder, and Tinder got it right. We've been together for like a year and shit.
We'll edit this out for you.
What month is it? July? Like a year and 3 months, 4 months. And we just clicked. Like, we were literally like just like best buds. And so when people are like, oh, you should, be friends with your partner, I don't think I understood it fully until this relationship. And so we met on Tinder, been together like a year and some change. And she is actually from Washington State. It's funny because I was born in Washington State. I was born in Seattle, and she was born in Port Angeles, which is like a few hours away. So I always thought that was funny. And my lease ended right in the middle of COVID. And I was like, ooh, money's funny right now. Don't want to sign another lease, though. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to sign another lease I don't know how things are going to go. And so I moved in with her and her mom in Oregon to pretty much just ride out the pandemic. But then the pandemicked. And so it's still happening. And
we're still riding it out.
We're still riding it out. But it's looking like we're going to get our own place soon. Like soon. Like, we're actually looking at places this weekend. So,
Were you guys living together in LA, or did like this quarantine kind of make you live together?
Basically, she was always in my apartment because she had a roommate. And so she was over my apartment damn near every day. And so we didn't technically live together, no, but she did my dishes and we cooked and stuff. But yeah, no, we didn't live together, but you know, we've been living together for the last, since March. So 4 months, 3 months, math, 4 months. Yeah. And it's been good. And that's why I say like, I really do, you know, and I know that I'm speaking as someone like only in a relationship for a year, you know, and I'm sure someone who's been in a relationship for like way longer would probably be like, oh. But I really do like feel that our friendship is what keeps us going and not wanting to like slit each other's throats. So it's been good. It's been actually really positive. I like, look, she's working right now. She's an essential worker, got one. And so I look forward to like when she comes home, you know, I'm like, how's your work?
Healthy.
How's your day, babe?
That is healthy.
Yeah.
That's what Jack always says. He's like, you can't date people who like work from home if you work from home.
Yeah, not two people working from home. It's just too much time together.
Yeah. You're right.
I believe it.
Well, congrats. I'm jealous. What do you... I don't know if we've ever covered this before, but just like, what do you feel like? Is it harder, do you think, to date as a Black lesbian? You know, because of racism, pretty much.
No, actually, because I feel like I also have this other joke. Most of my jokes are me just telling the truth, but like not wanting to get rejected. So I have this other joke where I say like in the straight world I'm like a 4, but in the gay world I'm like an 8. So it's like when I am in queer spaces, it's actually not that difficult to talk to people and to, you know, finesse a date if that's what you're trying to do. So yeah, no, I think it's a bit different. I also think though that I think anyone who would be open, so any lesbian who will be open to dating a Black lesbian, usually, how do I say this? Usually prefers it, if that makes sense. So it's like I can speak for Jaden when I say like, so before me, she hadn't dated a girl ever. But I think she kind of goes back and forth, but I think she identifies as pansexual. But she always knew that, you know, she just preferred to date someone of color. Not necessarily just Black, but just literally just of color. So I think that when you're kind of in those spaces and you know that you're amongst people who are interested in the same gender as you, for me personally, I haven't felt any anxiety or anything, or I don't think it's been harder necessarily because that was just a comfortable space to be in. Okay. And I knew that usually a lot of femmes, you know, and it's probably the gender roles or whatever, but, you know, I'm attracted to femmes, and it's more common that a femme will also be attracted to someone who's masculine presenting. I've never, and they absolutely exist. I'm not trying to say that they don't exist. They do. But I've never, you know, talked to a femme who was like, oh no, I don't date studs, or I don't date, you know, masculine women. And I honestly, I just feel like women are a bit more open in that way. As far as like dating beyond what they've dated before.
Maybe I'm projecting from like the gay male community, because I do feel like I have friends of color who I think find it more difficult to date in like WeHo.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Jack.
Yes.
I had a friend tell me one time that it's a gay man, Black gay man. He told me that he thinks that part of the reason why, and I don't know if he was speaking specifically to gay male culture or just gay culture in general, but he was like, he has this theory that the reason why sex is such this huge deal, it's like the center of everything, within gay culture is because we don't really get to experience it or really figure it out for ourselves until a little bit later in life. Like you're not doing it in middle school
Yeah.
or high school with everyone else. It usually happens a little bit later. And so
Sure.
he thinks that that's like kind of why, you know, when you do see party flyers and that type of thing, it's like half naked people, you know, bodies all out and that type of thing. So do you think that there's some truth to that?
I definitely do. That's something I actually struggle with personally because I know that gay culture is completely intertwined. Doesn't have to be, but a lot of gay culture is intertwined with sexuality, literally, like in the other way. And I think that's good because I think, I don't know, it's good to be liberated, but also I sometimes think that we revere sex over like human connection, like deep human connection, and we like sort of replace it with sex because it's, you know, easier and you feel good about yourself when it's done and you aren't heartbroken and, you know, you guard your feelings. And yeah, we haven't had a chance when we were kids to like form those connections, so we don't really know. It takes us longer to learn how to do that. So yeah, I do think that's definitely,
Okay.
I feel
Just
that
curious.
as a problem.
Yeah. That's not necessarily a problem. Like, I feel like we're living our teens in our 20s.
Exactly.
So it's just, yeah. So that's
Just the way it is, I guess.
we're mature like that.
Trying to grow up a little bit right
Yeah.
now, actually, with this coronavirus time.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Okay, should we get into some advice?
Yeah. Hi. I graduated high school a few years ago, and the summer after graduating, a friend and I, we'll call her Mary, got a lot closer. Like, a lot closer. Mary is an open bisexual, and I'm a closeted little lesbian. We both liked each other, and she was willing to take things slow since she knew I wasn't out and didn't plan on coming out anytime soon. However, we've been doing this not dating thing for over 2 years now. We are
Wow.
practically in a relationship just without the label. The issue is I don't think I'll ever be able to come out publicly, at least not until I move away from my family. So I feel terrible for keeping her in this situation. I feel like I'm holding back from a real public relationship with someone. I feel like I'm holding her back from a real public relationship with someone else. She tries to be patient and understanding with me, but also she understands, or sometimes she mentions how she'd like to be public. Should I end it with her so she can have the opportunity with someone else since I can't give her what she wants?
Oh,
Oof.
that all sounds so sad. Then they like seem to like each other so much, like care so much about each other's feelings. I have no idea. What do you guys think?
I don't think, I know that there's like this negative connotation around dating someone who's in the closet. However, I think dating people in the closet's dope. So, I think you should let her make the decision of whether
Yeah,
or
sure.
not, you know, she wants, if being public is more, is so important that it's worth ending the relationship. I don't think, it sounds like you're kind of making the decision for her, kind of
Right.
almost like prepping yourself for it. And so maybe just have the conversation with her, just be like, look, like what is really, like what is going to make you happy? What's going to make us happy? And if it's, you know, not being in a public, just figure out what that is. Cause I feel like she will tell you.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. I think you're worrying too much about someone whose mind you don't know.
Because it's also someone that you've been in a relationship with 2 years. So in the last 2 years, you've been in the closet. So it's like all of a sudden things haven't changed. Like I know that she said that she mentions it every now and then, and I think that that's normal. But yeah, I think it just takes the conversation.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. All right, who's up next?
I'll go. Okay, hey guys. I'm a 23-year-old lady from Israel. I've been in a relationship for 6 years now with my lovely girlfriend. We have our own small group of friends, and both of our groups are straight girls, which is so boring. Okay. I guess me finding a girlfriend so soon and hanging out with her all the time, which I love, never made me look around for queer friends. But lately, I'm starting to understand how important it is to surround yourself with people who get you, and I'm sure it's so much fun. But when I go out to queer bars, everyone kind of has their own group of friends. How do I meet some new queer mates?
I've met a lot of my gay boyfriends through Tinder. Like I went
Yeah,
on,
but they're in a relationship, so I'm sure they don't want to maybe go on Tinder.
but they could like have an agreement that like we're just and in their bio be like, I'm just looking for friends.
That's true.
I don't know. I've been on dates with guys and then it just like didn't work out, and now I'm like very close with them. So that's what's worked for me.
Jade, how do you meet new queer mates when you're in a relationship?
You know, I understand how difficult that might be because it might seem like you're trying to do something. But the internet is always your friend. One thing that I used to do when I was living in Virginia is I would go on eventbrite.com. And Eventbrite is basically just like a big event website. And so I would type in gay. I would literally type in gay or I would type in LGBT and then just see what came up. And oftentimes there would be like little parties or like speed dating or a coffee networking hour or whatever in like
so
a
smart.
near a city. So that's what I used to do when I was younger. Also, if you have at least one gay friend, you have more than one gay friend.
That's so
Totally.
true.
So true.
If you have like one gay friend, just be like, hey, do me a solid, have a game night or something. I don't know. Maybe not with COVID going on, but you know,
Yeah.
like there are ways that, you know, you can kind of use basically just like networking, but instead of for work, it's for fun. Pretty much.
True.
Yeah. That Eventbrite thing is smart. I'm going to do that
Yeah.
after COVID. SMH. Okay, Jade, do you want to read the last one?
All right. Okay. Hey, Jack, Amy, and probably gay guest, me. I'm from the UK and due to start college this is like UK words. Okay. So, I'm from the UK and due to start college at a US university this fall. During quarantine, I've caught feelings for another girl in my soon-to-be college class. We talk every day and it's very much established that we both like each other. However, because COVID-19 is lesbophobic, nice, and Mr. Donald Trump is actually homophobic, if I get my visa, I still can't enter the US unless he lifts his travel ban. Now, although I fall way too hard, I'm trying to not ask her to be my girlfriend until I know when exactly we'll see each other, but it's really hard not to think ahead to the unknown future. So yes. Anyways, some advice about what to do if we're going to be long distance for 6-ish months would be lovely. Especially considering that I would likely be able to hook up with other people here soon.
Whoa.
I think
Okay.
don't get in a relationship. I think you don't want to start college with a relationship because you want to go into college like meeting all these people, being open to whatever possibilities coming your way. You don't want to
But
start off
lesbians
college.
are different, Jack.
No, listen. I know they are, but you have to be strong because what will happen is that you guys will become friends with the same people, and then when a breakup happens a month into college, then you won't have
Jack.
friends. I'm
Okay.
telling you, I saw this
I
happen
feel
in
like-
college. I saw it happen.
I feel like follow your gut. Don't wait for Donald Trump to like tell you that you can travel. You know, if you feel that strong connection and you want to ask her to be your girlfriend, don't let it hinge on the fucking worst person in the entire world.
Did it? So they haven't met before. They're
No. I
they're
think
going to be
so.
in class together and
Yes.
the class just hasn't started yet.
Too fast.
But maybe they FaceTime, you know? I don't know.
I mean, long distance relationships suck. And so, I mean, they suck unless you're like me and you like being alone for all your days in the darkness. Then it's a great idea. But if it's like, I don't think you want to start off that way though. Like usually you want to date, you know, at least like maybe you guys are dorm mates or something like that. And then maybe you do a long distance thing like during the summer or whatever. But I think it's just too much to go into too soon. And also I learned this the hard way. Lesbians, listen up now. Just because you like someone doesn't mean you have to date them. So
Oh,
Whoa.
what?
There's
I
this-
did not know that.
Yeah, there's this thing. It's just called having a crush. And, maybe you get to explore that when you guys, start going to school. But have fun with it. FaceTime, flirt, send nudes, whatever. But, yeah, I
Don't make it
wouldn't rush
official.
into it.
What's the
Yeah.
point? Just like keep on flirty girding. I don't know.
It's COVID-19. Like, do you want to do that in the middle of COVID-19? It's like you gotta think about everything.
Yeah. I'm gonna say no.
I guess.
Amy's gonna say yes.
Well,
Jade's
I
gonna
didn't say yes.
Think.
I said follow your heart. Anyway. Jade, thank you so much for coming on Dating Straight. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Where can our listeners find more of you?
We'll have a YouTube channel. If you just look up Jade Fox, that's me. I pop up. I am Jade Fox on Twitter. I am Jade Fox on Instagram. I got a Patreon. I got some stuff going down on there. And yeah, that's me.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening. I'm Amy Oddman.
I'm Jack Dodge, and this is Dating Straight.
See you next Tuesday.
We could be broken-hearted lovers. You can help me recover. Ooh, we could be broken-hearted lovers. You can help